Welcome back to StadiumRise, $5,500,000,000. It is the most expensive sporting labyrinth ever constructed on planet Earth, a sprawling, translucent palace of glass, steel, and digital wizardry carved into the dirt of Inglewood, California. When the gates opened in 2020, it was hailed as the eighth wonder of the modern sporting world, a monument to American ambition designed to redefine live entertainment for the next century. But beneath the blinding glow of its circular infinity screen and the architectural majesty of its sweeping, wave-like roof lies a multi-billion-dollar contradiction that has sent shockwaves through the corridors of Zurich and Zurich's most powerful executives. This colossal structure, built with an almost limitless treasury, was fundamentally, systematically, and structurally flawed for the biggest sport on the globe. FIFA wanted a crown jewel for the 2026 World Cup. Instead, they walked into a structural trap. This is the story of how a $5.5 billion masterpiece forgot the beautiful game. To understand why this architectural marvel is currently at war with the laws of international football, you have to understand the mind of the man who built it. Stan Kroenke didn't just want a stadium, he wanted an empire. For decades, the second largest media market in the United States sat without an NFL team, a gaping hole in the fabric of American sports business. Kroenke, a billionaire developer with a global sports portfolio that spans from the Colorado Rapids to the red and white half of North London with Arsenal, saw an opportunity to build something unprecedented. In 2014, he quietly purchased a 60-acre plot of land that once belonged to the historic Hollywood Park racetrack. His vision was staggering in its scale, an entire mini-city centered around a sporting cathedral that would house both the Los Angeles Rams and the Los Angeles Chargers. But there was a catch, a geological and regulatory nightmare that threatened to crush the project before the first shovel ever touched the dirt. The site sits directly beneath the flight path of Los Angeles International Airport, just a few miles down the road. The Federal Aviation Administration swooped in with a strict, non-negotiable mandate. The structure could not stand higher than 100 feet above the ground, or it would interfere with airport radar and incoming aircraft. Most developers would have shrunk their ambitions. Kroenke's team did the opposite. If they couldn't build up into the sky, they would dig down into the earth. The architects at HKS received their orders and began sketching a design that defied conventional stadium engineering. They excavated millions of tons of earth, digging a massive bowl that sits a staggering 100 feet below the natural ground level. To cover this subterranean coliseum, they engineered a monumental freestanding roof canopy that stands completely independent of the stadium bowl itself. This massive canopy, stretching across 1 million square feet, is made of a cutting-edge plastic called ETFE, composed of hundreds of translucent panels designed to let in the Southern California sunshine while protecting fans from the elements. It was designed to feel like an indoor-outdoor oasis, a coastal breeze flowing through the open sides, while the roof reflects the glittering light of the Pacific. It is an architectural triumph, a sculpted wave that mirrors the topography of the California coastline. Step inside, and the sheer scale of the engineering hits your chest. Suspended from the center of that massive roof sits the Oculus, now known as the Infinity Screen. It is a dual-sided oval video board containing 80 million pixels, weighing an unbelievable 2.2 million pounds. It stretches 120 yards long, hovering over the playing surface like a digital spacecraft, ensuring that every single fan, from the multi-millionaire in the luxury suites to the die-hard supporter in the highest row, is completely enveloped in a hypersensory wall of light and sound. The capacity can expand to over 100,000 frantic spectators for massive entertainment events, making it a colossus of the entertainment industry. Yet, as the concrete dried and the stadium prepared to host the Super Bowl in 2022, a massive, quiet crisis was brewing across the Atlantic. FIFA was finalizing the blueprint for the most ambitious tournament in its history, a 48-team, three-nation mega event across Canada, Mexico, and the United States. Los Angeles, a historic bastion of football culture that hosted the iconic 1994 World Cup final at the Rose Bowl, was supposed to be the undisputed centerpiece of the American venues. The crown jewel of the tournament's western hub was earmarked for this brand-new $5.5 billion palace. It seemed like a marriage made in corporate heaven. The world's richest sport matching up with the world's most expensive venue. Then, the inspectors from football's global governing body arrived in Inglewood, clipboards in hand, tape measures ready, and what they discovered sent panic through the executive suites of both FIFA and Kroenke Sports and Entertainment. The stadium was completely, utterly, and fundamentally too narrow for a regulation football pitch. To understand the mathematical absurdity of this crisis, you have to look at the rigid, uncompromising rulebook of international football. A standard NFL gridiron is a uniform, narrow strip of turf. It measures precisely 53 1/3 yards wide, or roughly 48 meters. Because gridiron football is a game of vertical progression, American stadiums are engineered with sightlines and concrete walls that hug the sidelines tightly, bringing the crowd as close to the bench areas as humanly possible to maximize intimacy and noise. International football, however, requires a massive breathing canvas. For World Cup matches, FIFA strictly dictates that the playing surface must be 105 meters long by 68 meters wide. But it doesn't stop there. FIFA requires an additional 5-meter safety buffer zone around the entire perimeter of the pitch to ensure players sprinting at top speed do not crash into concrete walls, digital advertising boards, or media photographers. In total, a World Cup venue requires a flat, unobstructed width of 78 meters. When FIFA laid those metrics over the subterranean floor of the Inglewood venue, they found a catastrophic shortfall. The concrete retaining walls holding back the subterranean California earth, along with the structural pillars supporting the lower-tier luxury suites, left a maximum width that fell critically short of the required dimension. The world's most expensive stadium had been engineered so precisely for the American game that it had mathematically choked out the beautiful game. If a winger tried to sprint down the touchline, they would risk shattering their knee against a multi-million-dollar concrete wall. The irony was thick enough to cut with a knife. A billionaire owner who owns one of the most famous football clubs in London had sanctioned a $5 billion project that could not fit a standard football pitch without a major structural crisis. How did this happen? The answer lies in the cold, hard calculus of American sports economics. The stadium was built to generate revenue every single day from the NFL, concerts, and corporate conventions. The design prioritized premium, field-level luxury club seats, known as the VIP field cabins. These ultra-exclusive spaces fetch tens of thousands of dollars per game, placing corporate clients close enough to hear the pads popping on the gridiron. Removing them or altering them to accommodate a sport that might visit for a month every few decades was seen during construction as an unnecessary financial sacrifice. When FIFA raised the alarm, the relationship between the governing body and the stadium management rapidly deteriorated into a cold war of financial brinkmanship. Rumors began to circulate that the venue's ownership group, furious at the prospect of paying for massive structural renovations while receiving what they felt was an unfair slice of the World Cup revenue pie, threatened to walk away from the tournament entirely. For months, the sporting world watched in disbelief as the finest stadium in America risked being completely excluded from the greatest tournament on Earth. The standoff forced a brutal engineering reality check. To fix the width issue for the 2026 World Cup, the venue would have to undergo a dramatic invasive structural mutation. Engineers determined that the only way to squeeze a 78-meter-wide playing surface into the bowl was to literally demolish portions of the lower-tier concrete stands in the corners of the stadium. This wasn't a matter of simply unscrewing a few rows of plastic seats. This required cutting through reinforced concrete structural elements and temporarily removing the highly lucrative field-level hospitality suites that form the financial backbone of the stadium's daily operations. The financial cost of this temporary transformation is staggering, but the long-term impact on the fan experience is where the real tragedy of this design flaw reveals itself. Because the stadium bowl was dug deep into the earth to appease the aviation authorities, the pitch cannot be easily raised on a temporary platform without severely disrupting the sightlines of the entire lower bowl. When those corner seats are removed and the football pitch is forced into the space, the corners of the playing field will be pushed deep underneath the overhang of the stands. For thousands of fans sitting in those lower sections, the near corner flag will be completely invisible, obscured by the very architecture designed to celebrate them. The ultimate humiliation came when FIFA officially announced the match schedule for the 2026 World Cup. The tournament's showpiece event, the World Cup Final, the single most watched sporting broadcast on the planet, was expected to be a direct battle between Los Angeles and New York. With its $5.5 billion price tag, its glittering celebrity backdrop, and its hyper-modern infrastructure, the Inglewood venue was supposed to be a shoo-in. Instead, FIFA brass bypassed Southern California entirely, awarding the prestigious final to MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, an open-air concrete bowl built for a fraction of the cost, but one that could actually fit a regulation football field without a team of demolition experts. Even AT&T Stadium in Dallas, a venue over a decade older, beat out Los Angeles for the marquee semi-final matches. The most expensive stadium ever built was relegated to hosting group stage matches. It was a stinging public rebuke from the global football establishment, a warning shot across the bow of American sports architecture. You can spend billions of dollars on digital screens, you can build luxury suites that resemble five-star hotels, and you can wrap your stadium in a roof that looks like a work of contemporary art. But if you disrespect the basic spatial dimensions of the game, Football will leave you behind. The lesson of this multi-billion-dollar miscalculation stretches far beyond the borders of California. It exposes a deep, fundamental cultural divide in how sporting spaces are conceived and built. In Europe, South America, and Africa, a stadium is a secular cathedral, built from the pitch outward. The game is the soul of the structure. The dimensions of the field are sacred and unalterable. Everything else, from the stands to the corporate boxes, must adapt to the pitch. In the hyper-commercialized world of modern American sports business, the stadium is often viewed as a real estate asset first, an entertainment hub designed to maximize cash flow per square foot. The field is simply a stage that can be shrunk, shifted, or squeezed to accommodate the maximum number of high-yield revenue streams. As the construction crews prepare to tear into the pristine concrete corners of the Inglewood masterpiece to make room for the 2026 matches, the venue stands as a monument to brilliant ambition, flawed execution, and historical short-sightedness. It will host the opening match for the United States men's national team, and the stands will undoubtedly be a sea of color, noise, and passion. The infinity screen will flash with beautiful, crisp graphics, and the global broadcast will look spectacular. But for the purists who understand the architecture of football, they will look at those compromised corners, those restricted sightlines, and those lost semi-finals and finals, and they will see the truth. They will see a $5.5 billion palace that can touch the sky, capture the imagination, and host the world's greatest concerts, but remains fundamentally unsuited for the simple, beautiful requirements of the world's game. If you enjoyed this, like, subscribe, and hit the bell. See you next week.